This here is issue number 13 of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comic by Boom Studios. In the previous issue, Rita told Goldar Finster was making a better version of him. We see here that Finster has essentially sculpted a beefed up version of Goldar. And for the first time ever, we see Goldar without his armour on. It turns out that Rita is having Finster make multiple sculpts of Goldar because her army of putties keep getting defeated by the Power Rangers. This is somewhat more logical than the Rita in the TV series, because no matter how many times the putties failed her, Rita kept sending the putties into battle first. Here, she's had enough and is changing tactics. Finster walks off to another area of the Palace Command Center and comes across something, but we don't know what it is now because we return to Tommy and Billy, who were caught by the Coinless in the last issue. And it turns out I was right. They were caught by Bulk, Trini and Aisha. Saba has already interacted with Aisha before, but she has her doubts about Saba, thinking Drakon may have created a copy. Then Zack shows up and he also has his doubts. He immediately tests Saba by asking him what he said to Zack the last time they saw each other. Saba promised he'd return with people who'd save the world. And with that, Zack decides to let Tommy and Billy into their hideout. At the press of a control panel, Billy and Tommy are stunned to see the hideout inside a mountain. Zack leaves Aisha to show Tommy and Billy to their quarters, but Billy wants to speak with Trini, who's been very quiet. She tells him she's not the Trini he knows. Back at Drakon's palace, we see him and his henchmen discussing the disappearance of the Falcon Zord. We also see here that he has two armoured Red Ranger guards with cloaks and lances based on the Power Sword's design. And there's a woman in an armoured Yellow Ranger suit. It's interesting how Drakon has his people dressed in armoured versions of the Power Rangers' suits. Anyway, he revokes the woman's powers and they'll be passed on to someone called Jax. Then Scorpina shows up, and this Scorpina is the one from the main, present timeline. She is also stuck in the alternate future and is working with Drakon to find a way back to her own timeline. But before that, Drakon needs to take care of the Power Rangers first, and suspects Tommy and Billy have joined the Coinless. So he preps his army for battle. We see Skull here, but we're not sure of his involvement yet, because we then jump back to the Rangers timeline, and Trini is having a hard time analysing the Black Dragon's remains. It turns out Trini has been unable to reach Alpha for days, possibly because his reserve batteries may have run out. Jason and Zack are sparring, and Zack requires a break, even though it was his idea to spar as a way to cope with the stress. Jason then speaks to Kimberly, and he asks her if she likes Tommy. Kimberly says she thinks she does, and that she could be stupid because she can't see it ending well. Jason tries to be optimistic for Kimberly, and she tells him that's why he's the leader of the Power Rangers. And then the Rangers hear Alpha's voice. He says he's found a weakness in Rita's defences, so there's a chance they could take back the command centre and their powers. We then return to the alternate future with Billy walking into a room and people saying how he looks like the Billy of that timeline. Billy is shocked to discover that his counterpart is dead. He asks Trini how it happened, and she tells him he died a hero because he saved her life during the Great Battle. Then we cut to Zack's point of view of him battling Drakon and losing his power coin to him. Even though Zack loses his powers, he's able to kick Drakon away, resulting in him dropping Saba. That's when Saba told Zack he will return with those who will save the world. After Zack finishes retelling the events to Tommy, Bulk enters and warns them Drakon knows where they are. Bulk knows this because Skull managed to get a message to them. He must be operating as a spy at Drakon's base of operations. But before Bulk can finish delivering his warning, Drakon's forces arrive. Back in the Rangers timeline, Jason is going over the plan to take back the command center. The Rangers are ready to leave the pocket dimension to take back their powers, but we find out that Alpha was not speaking to them at all. It was Finster who was able to reprogram Alpha's head unit. So this is in fact a trap, and we see an army of beefed up Goldars ready for action. So not a lot of action in this issue, but there was good storytelling. So we find out more about what happened to the Rangers in the alternate timeline. We know Aisha is with the Coinless, but how did she end up joining them? Trini was also there, so we don't know if Aisha was a different Yellow Ranger, or just someone who got recruited into the coin list. I'm hoping the next issue will answer more of the questions that this issue has raised.